And here he is, Michael Savage.
Now, some people have poked fun at me this week for sounding like an insurance salesman, and that's okay. I'd still be out there championing this law even if the website were perfect. I'll never stop fighting to help
let's
more
stop here. Now, yesterday on the Savage Nation, welcome to the program. There's a lot of screaming and yelling and hysteria, and, okay. The anti-Obamacare chorus is louder than ever. The righteous indignation can be heard from Maine to Mexico. But I have a little news for you. Obama and his minions are 10 steps ahead of the screaming anti-Obamacare chorus. 10 steps ahead of the chorus. Why do I say that? What the anti-Obamacare chorus does not seem to understand is that Obama, Valerie Jarrett, Axelrod, and the others actually wanted the website and the system to fail. Why? So that the people who are demanding free health care demand a government-run, single-payer system. Government Medical Insurance, Inc. Government Medical Insurers, Inc. And moreover, let me tell you something else that you don't understand. I mean, you could join the chorus screaming, knock out Obamacare, let's overthrow Obamacare. Well, it's all good sentiments. You could be Ted Cruz and use it for your own advancement. Even though he's right, he's not going to get anywhere. Ted Cruz is now saying Obama's abusing his power. Fine, he's right. Which president hasn't? Admittedly, Obama's doing so more so than any president in my life, but nevertheless, he's in a long chain. Others in the chorus against Obama are saying he lied. Duh. And Bush didn't lie about weapons of mass destruction? What else is new about someone who becomes president? What, they're Boy Scouts? No, they became president because they're Honest Abe. So let's stop being naive about who our presidents are, who they were, and who they should be. Let's start with that. Now let's go to the issue at hand. Everyone's screaming, Obamacare, stop it, turn the clock back. My friends, we have entered not the first stages, not the infancy stages, not the adolescent stages quite yet. We are in the childhood of socialism in the United States of America. We entered the infancy of socialism 50 years ago. With the passage of the Social Security Act, we entered the infancy of socialism. I remember my uncle, when I was a boy, complained about the Social Security number. He hated it. I'm talking early 50s. I didn't know what my uncle's politics were. I was a young kid, and he was screaming about the Social Security number being the beginning of socialism. I didn't know what he was talking about, and he hated it. We've been way past the infancy of socialism, and for all of these Johnny-come-latelys to start screaming, oh, he's dragging us into socialism. Nixon did a pretty good job with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I believe the EPA. He wasn't a Democrat. Bush did pretty good by expanding government 3, 4, 5-fold in his last few years. I didn't hear people screaming what I was saying, which is Bush is practicing a form of socialism. So now let's already put things in context. Yes, Obama is a worldwide, world-class liar and a worldwide, world-class invoker of worldwide socialism in the United States of America, and we're all opposed to it. But unless you understand that he didn't begin it, you have no way to understand where he's taking us. What the anti-Obamacare chorus doesn't seem to get is that they actually may have wanted the website to sputter. They want the system, when it's in place, to absolutely be a nightmare. So people who are demanding universal health care will say, we want a single-payer system run by the United States government. Okay? Moreover, and here's another shock for all of you hysterics out there, we are already paying for universal health care. There is not a filthy bum in the street who is not already given a gold-plated health care system in this country. There's not a filthy, degenerate drug addict in this country who is not already being given the best health care the world has ever seen. And it's bankrupted us. I don't think you understand what I'm saying to you. I don't care if you're an illegal alien from Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico. You can come here. You can go into any emergency room. You could have a child with the flu, and you could bring in all your relatives. They will bring you a translator. They will treat that child better than they treated a World War II veteran in the mall 3 weeks ago. They're all being treated very well. So they already have universal health care. What the government, who is 10, 15 steps ahead of the screamers, is doing here is very clever. And that is they want to introduce the idea that, yes, we all are entitled to health care, because we have it anyway, by the way. I don't care if you're the poorest person in America. You slip and fall, you're going to be taken to an ambulance will pick you up and take you to a hospital. Tell me if I'm wrong. Have I said one thing that's false so far? You already have universal health care, only it's overpriced. It's costing a fortune. So where am I going with this? I'll tell you exactly where I'm going with this. I am telling you what's coming. There is no going back. There is no undoing Obamacare. There is no undoing a universal health care program in the United States of America. What will result, despite all of the screaming from all of the people on the right who are thinking that they're making headway, is the following. We're going to have very, very poor doctors, very poor hospitals, very long waiting lines, death panels. In other words, a grim Eastern European universal health system run only by the government. And I'll tell you something else. In your lifetime, this socialist government that is emerging under Obama, which is right now sort of a crypto-socialism, he's hiding it, claims he isn't, that wild, young, radical Muslim socialist he once was. No, he actually is that wild, radical Muslim socialist he once was. Only he's getting away with it for many reasons. I will tell you this. The government will own all the medical schools. The government will own and run medical schools. They will produce garbage doctors of the quality that you saw in the ex-Soviet Union. Junk doctors of the kind you see in Cuba right now. Government-trained and government-paid doctors who earn less than teachers, like in Cuba or like in the ex-Soviet Union. I remember when I was a young boy, when a lot of my cohorts in high school wanted to be doctors, that was a popular thing, doctor, dentist, this and that. We were told, and we were shocked to learn, that in the ex-Russia, ex-Soviet Union, doctors earned less than teachers. We didn't understand it. We used to scratch our head because when we were young teenage boys, high school age, the doctor was, oh, boy, he makes a lot of money here in America. Doctor had the Cadillac. Doctor had the nice house. Doctor had the nice everything. Doctor made nice money. While the average man was making $15,000 a year, the doctor was making maybe, I don't know, $150,000 a year, a neighborhood doctor. Who knows what he made, what they pocketed since we paid him cash. We paid him cash. Remember that. Who knows how much of it was reported. They live very well. So we were shocked to find out that in Russia, the doctors earned less than teachers, and we didn't understand why. Now, as I got older, I came to understand why. It's because the doctors were very bad. They were poorly trained. They went to bad medical schools. And they didn't really administer the kind of medicine that we're used to in this country. They administered the kind of medicine you'd get in a Kaiser Permanente today. Very close to the junk medicine being dispensed by Kaiser Permanente here in California, which is a big model, by the way, for Obamacare. Ask anyone who's investigated this. The doctors don't look at the patients. I remember when my little girl was a baby, 7 years old. I'll never forget this as long as I live. I was a participant in Kaiser Healthcare, and I did so even though the kids were young. I only joined because I was afraid of a catastrophic illness. I never paid for any insurance, but I always was afraid that, God forbid, there was a catastrophic illness. It would wipe me out. I had almost no money anyway, but I didn't want to lose the little I had. So we signed up for Kaiser. We figured, God forbid, a kid gets hit with a ball or something. We needed some coverage. I'll never forget when we went in to see the, quote, pediatrician. Today, pediatricians have become drug peddlers. They push Adderall the way crack dealers sell crack. If your child acts like a normal person, they put him on Adderall. That's the pediatrician of today. When I was a young man, a pediatrician was a god and a goddess. They were the least paid, least rewarded doctors because they didn't push drugs. Well, all that changed, hasn't it? Now all they do is push drugs. They know next to nothing about nutrition. In fact, they know less than zero about nutrition. Nothing about preventive medicine, everything about drugs. We go into Kaiser, check up, 7-year-old girl. She's sitting and shivering on the examination table, waiting for the great man to come in. The great man at Kaiser comes in. He looks at her chart on the wall, doesn't look at her. Comes in, he nods at the wall, looks at the chart, and he says, now let's see, what is it you came to... And he goes down looking at the chart. He still hasn't looked at her, hasn't touched her, hasn't said a word to the parents. I said, are you kidding me? This is the doctor? He was there 7 minutes. That's what Kaiser doctors in those days were allowed to allot to a patient. It's probably 3 minutes now. I pity the doctors as much as the patients. Even if they want to be a doctor, they can't be a doctor. They come in, they look at the chart, and then they send them on. They throw a drug at them. That's the model of medicine that Obama likes. That's the model that Obama is imposing on America. And let me tell you something else. The government is 10 steps ahead of the screaming anti-Obamacare chorus. What the chorus does not seem to grasp is that they've created this crisis of the crashed website. It was intentionally made not to work. Why? So everyone would scream, oh, make it work. Make it work, make it work, make it work. We want our doctors. We want our medicines. Make it work. So they'll say, well, you know, we gave it to a private company. They didn't do a good job. We're going to have the government design a website for you, and then the government will make it work right. In fact, we're going to get rid of all the insurance companies. It's too confusing. We're going to have a single-payer system. The government is going to sign you up, and the government is going to care for you from cradle to grave. And so, my friends, we're moving into a grim Eastern European picture here. Yes, there will be universal health for all, run only by the government. Eventually, no private doctors. Think of a black and white movie set in Prague in the 1950s. Think of Cuba with dirty smocks and filthy halls in a hospital with patients dying outside. That's your brain on Obamacare. And let me tell you something else. I have good news for you, too. Last night, you know, I ran a great show here on sex addiction. Remember the show? Is There Sex Addiction? I had great callers. It was one of my best shows. I really enjoyed it. It was like a one-off show, you know. And I talked about sex addiction, and maybe it's not real for many people. I got a call today from the White House. They've invited me to run the sex addiction side of Obamacare. Just kidding. It's the Savage Nation. I figured I'd cheer you up. The phone number is 85. What is my phone number? 855-400-7282. There are other stories. What do you think is the most important story we should be talking about today, and why? Do you feel talk radio is becoming too focused on Obamacare and staying with them too long, as I do? I can't listen to it. I know people who don't listen to radio anymore. I know people who are adamant talk radio listeners who stopped listening to talk radio because all they hear all day long is screaming and yelling. Is screaming and screeching and yelling about Obamacare. Now, admittedly, Obamacare is a disaster, but it doesn't mean that we have to talk about it on radio. Radio is not about talking about the government day in and day out, is it? Is it or is it? Do you want me to only talk about Obama and every breath he takes, every burp he makes, every ear he scratches, every fingernail he cuts? Are you people that crazy? You're just feeding into his narcissism. So I'm asking you this question. Do you feel, as I do, that talk radio is becoming too focused on the single story of Obamacare and staying with them far too long? And what is it that you would like to talk about? There are other issues. There are other important issues. For me, as important as this is, I'll survive it one way or the other. I'll tell you what I won't survive, or what I fear I won't survive. I fear I will not survive the hordes of illegal aliens that Obama is about to unleash on America. I fear it will trigger a civil war. I fear our loss of prestige in the world and the rising power of radical Islam. I fear the desire of the Obamaites to seize our guns, because once they seize our guns and neutralize the Second Amendment, we will become absolute serfs all over again. We will become the serfs that many of us heard about from our grandparents in foreign countries. High taxes is another way of turning us into serfs. Gun control is another way of turning us into serfs. Flooding America with 50 to 60 million non-English speaking, non-language speaking people who don't know our culture and spit on our flag is another way to turn us into serfs and strangers in our own land. To me, those are much bigger questions than the one that I'm hearing day in and day out. There is a much larger agenda at stake, and if you underestimate these people, you're doing yourself a great disservice. I have many things I'd rather talk about than Obamacare. I think I've given you my opinion, which is that there's no going back. There is no undoing a universal health care program because the people want it. That's number one. And there's no undoing it. And I will tell you something else. We are entering the childhood of socialism in America, not the infancy, which we passed a long time ago, and it will take 30 years for America to do what the Soviet Union did, which is break the wall and break down the wall. You may not like it, but here we are. I'll be back.